Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here today. This makes a huge difference in a community that is only a year and a half to 2 years old, because right now the revolution is not so equal. And my goal in life is to make sure that equality is present and that there's more women and non-binary folks represented in the fine arts. And so I'd like to thank MoCA, Contemporary Istanbul, and my dear friends operator, Serena Tabaci, Marina, Bruno, everyone for believing and giving us a platform to really amplify our vision. I'm going to just start with the timeline of how I entered the Web3 space and crypto, and basically tell you what I just did in the past month and where I'm at right now. So my name is Chanel Verdalt. I go by C. I was born in the physical old art world. And it's not old in a sense of being traditional, but I was raised in antiquity. I was raised in all physical art. And so having this ancient download of physical art and only knowing acquisition and art curation that was 19th century and below, things that you see in the Hermitage or the Getty or Versailles, heavily inspired me in a sense that we're currently living in a Renaissance 3.0. And this is an epoch of the most brilliant avant-garde and modern artists and multidisciplinary artists of our time. And my life mission, my goal, is to discover these artists in the space and create a new art movement where we're all included. So just a bit about my background. I'm an artist and I'm the head of curation at UnicornDAO. I shape environments through art and technology, and I aim to bridge the gap between contemporary conceptual artists entering the Web3 space. What I'm coining this revolution is Renaissance 3.0, that's driven by radical decentralization and physical happenings. I'm the creative behind the first immersive physical meets digital avant-garde multidisciplinary international exhibition called NFT Art Berlin at Kraftwerk Berlin. This was literally 30 days ago. I threw an exhibition where performance art, installations, physical digital happenings, sculpture, painting, performance art, opera, live performances all came together in an 8,000 square meter power plant called Kraftwerk Berlin, and you'll see that the concrete building is like a brutalist mecca. I decided to put together an ecosystem of over 75 artists of our time to really synthesize and process that this is a historical revolution and a moment where I have the opportunity with allies like Samsung, Coinbase Wallet, Art Blocks, and all the folks that want to amplify our vision, support for the first time a viable structure and ecosystem in order for us to all thrive in the space. Artists that I curated, anyone from Pussy Riot to Tom Sachs to Victoria Modesta, Tyler Hobbs, who created Fidenzas, Ayak Shells, Jesse Draxler, Anya Catherine and Deja Tai, two of my best friends and muses for over 2 decades. Justin Aversano, who broke the world record of the highest photography sales at Christie's, and a bunch of other artists in the space that I've gotten to know along the way of being their friend, not someone who sees them as a transactional economic deal. So this is a video. It's basically about what we did at Kraftwerk, and it's kind of just like a teaser of what's to come. So basically this was the pre-production. I came up with this idea 6 months ago, and then we booked the venue 3 months ago, and it took 1 month to create the installation, which was site-specific. This is the curated art on view of the 100 artists of our time. It's basically a drone shot of everything that we did. I had 100 screens on the first floor as a multidisciplinary exhibition of the 100 artists that you saw on the roster in the first slide. And what I did was I put them all together in their dream fantasy of being in a brutalist power plant so that everyone could coexist and be curated together, and that if they perhaps never met, Web3 and crypto and NFTs, DeFi, all of it connected all of us together to be able to create this seminal art movement. We are living in an art movement. And I'm very conscious of this, and it's something that is a life goal, to be able to put every artist in the same space and to grow it all over the world, including Istanbul and many different countries and continents to come. So this is actually one of my favorite installations and NFTs that we did. We had 15,000 people come by in 30 days. This is an iconic moment from the legendary avant-garde opera, Robert Wilson and Philip Glass, Einstein on the Beach. It was a 25-minute NFT, and for the first time, we asked Philip Glass and Robert Wilson, what would you like to mint as an NFT? This was a very symbolic NFT of being a light portal into the universe, of trusting that Web3 and crypto perhaps were a tool for all of us to innovate and integrate to the next level, to get into a realm and an environment that we can all coexist and thrive in the space. And so this light beam was... No. You want to go? Oh, okay. This light beam was a 25-minute sequence that we auctioned at Foundation for 30 ETH. And with 30 ETH allocated, it was able to fund the vision of putting it on the main stage at Kraftwerk and really giving people more of an emotional way of processing the intersection of art, technology, avant-garde operas, seminal performances, experiences, and us all universally being together, but having an introverted moment of seeing how NFTs are more than a JPEG, a GIF, or an internet culture, and that this is beyond just what you mint on the blockchain. It's actually a memory and experience, something that you'll never forget. And so I really wanted to crystallize and synthesize this moment with two of the most iconic masterminds that I really look up to in the space. So after that chapter at Kraftwerk in Berlin, I had a dear friend, Nadia from Pussy Riot, asked me to be the head of curation and a creative director for UnicornDAO. And UnicornDAO is something that I've wanted my whole life. It actually empowers women, non-binary, LGBTQ+, and BIPOC folks in the space so that we can allocate the funds that we raise in order to create a museum of the future. How many of you have heard of Pussy Riot? Okay, a really good amount. So Pussy Riot came to fruition about a decade ago, and under Vladimir Putin's regime, he didn't like what they did because they were fighting against, the oligarchs and the people on top that want to control them. And they decided to take over an Orthodox church and scream punk lyrics that God is gay and Putin should die. And I know this might sound radical and rebellious, but in this day and age, in fact, Pussy Riot, trying to really create a space for people that are oppressed, is more prevalent than ever, especially with what's going on in Ukraine. And so Nadia of Pussy Riot, the leader of Pussy Riot, and I met about a year and a half ago at the gallery that I first curated when I entered the NFT space. And we both had a prophecy, a revelation, to be sisters in crypto and Web3 because it's very male-dominated, and we feel and we know that. And so my life mission is to give people space to be able to thrive, to profit, to express themselves with no boundaries, limitations, borders, that they can just be themselves and be free to roam, just how unicorns have been portrayed in medieval art. And so we ask, who's behind this? It's actually a very dynamic force and group of us all. We all come together at the intersection of artists, builders, allies, venture capitalists, investors, visionaries, creatives, just about anything and everything that you can imagine. But 3.5 months ago, we formulated this DAO and raised $7 million to be able to empower our community. This is something that perhaps when I'm here next year, or when we talk about this in 6 months, it's going to be all over the world. And so I'm here today to really tell you that this is just the beginning of a new revolution where women and LGBTQ and non-binary artists take back their power and reclaim it in a way of just making sure that we're all equal, that we can all really live in a new ecosystem. And that ecosystem takes acceptance and it takes faith that we're all in this together. And so we partnered with Tribute Labs, Flamingo DAO, Neon DAO, and Noise DAO, and able to create a movement that is an evolution for our revolution. And this is a picture of Nadia, if you haven't met her or seen her before. She's amazing, definitely a force of nature. And so this is some press. If you have read about things in the NFT space, we're quite disruptive. We're disruptive in the best way possible. And so we've been featured in Time Magazine, Rolling Stones, Forbes, just about any type of media source like Decrypt or Cointelegraph. In most recent news, we did raise $7 million to allocate for our DAO, but when the war broke out in Ukraine, not even the media in 3 days could raise 6.7 million for efforts to help our allies in Ukraine really make sure that they were taken care of in a certain way so that they could flee the country. Nadia, as a Russian person, really feels that she does not believe or identifies with Vladimir Putin. And so she opened a DAO which had a multi-sig, and we had thousands of people all over the world donate almost $7 million to Ukraine, and we directly donated it to Ukrainians to take action to help them. And so this is just some press of different things that we have done. The first ever NFT that we acquired was a DAO member called Olive Allen, of her burning her Russian passport in order to have 100% of the proceeds go to Ukrainians. From that, we also have had news of the 10 female-led NFT collections to check out that I've curated for International Women's Day, how Nadia from Pussy Riot is using crypto to fight for equality, that Web3 is a tool for us to truly be self-sufficient and powerful. So UnicornDAO is, if we give the definition of what a unicorn is, it's a gender unicorn. One does not necessarily feel that they need to fit in the mold of a female or a male box. And so if I were to personally explain this, my identity, I'm extremely androgynous. I don't see myself as a female or a male. I am just my own. I'm an alien. And so we have a bunch of us that truly believe that the future is genderless, that there's no sexuality, that things are fluid and equal. And the more we all think about this as a collective, the more we all grow and advance in our thoughts, and those thoughts turn into an ecosystem that we can all thrive in a space and truly be self-sufficient. Some of our DAO members are, of course, Nadia from Pussy Riot, Grimes, Sia, Beeple, and Guy Osiri. These are just 5. We have 70 DAO members at the table, all incredibly talented, special powerhouses of our time that have promised each other, including the people that you see above, to make sure that we take care of each other and we start a revolution that never looks back, that is forward, and that we encourage you all to join the revolution, that's fluid and that is completely self-sufficient in Web3 and art and in anything, really. And so our selected investors are anyone from MoonPay to Collab Currency to Yuga Labs that we know of, CryptoPunks and Bored Ape Yacht Club, Flamingo DAO, the ones that have constructed our Bible of how we really navigate and orchestrate our DAO from scratch. Gary V of Vayner Funds, Quantum, Justin Aversano, his platform, Wave Financial, Consensus Mesh, and the Lao. So this is just a prime example. If we were to think about the statistics in 2021 of visual artists working today, only 11% of acquisitions are in fact female artists, and 14% of the exhibitions in modern art galleries are female artists. And then to make it worse, only 5% of women and non-binary folks in the NFT space are actually in our space. And so if you do the math, 90 to 95% of it is a cis male dominated world. And it's not that we're looking for a division, we're perhaps trying to make it more unified and equal so that there's a balance and a scale of making sure that we're all taken care of. And so our initiative is to just make sure the world is equal and that it's colorful and diverse. And so our team We have a brilliant team of all women. I think it's really rare that you see that there's 6 women at the table, really bringing forth, shaping this revolution. It's Nadia as the president, Rebecca Lamis as the CEO, Katie as the CTO, which is the programmer and the engineer behind our entire operation, Jenny Thompson in London, that is the CMO, that has run Medallion for over 2 decades, Laura, that is strategy and design from FWB, and myself as head of curation and creative direction. The problem is that female and non-binary creators in the NFT and art world are unjustly undervalued and grossly undercompensated. When we think about female and queer and non-binary folks in the space, we're really not taken care of yet. And there needs to be much more love and care and TLC and support of people investing in our art. Because when you invest in our art, you invest in our identity, you invest in our ecosystem, you invest in the next wave of what's to come. And so we encourage you, and just if I could ask you all, how many of you own one piece of art by a woman or a non-binary artist? Okay, awesome. At least half. I love to see that. We've been talking about the root of the problem. It's in 3 steps. 1, toxic masculinity is left unchecked. I come from LA. I've had the privilege of staying in Berlin with my dear friends Ani Catherine and Dija Tai of Operator, that I curated to be one of the artists of our time, to be a multidisciplinary power couple, queer power couple in the space, defining the boundaries of multidisciplinary art, from performance art to installation to sculpture to ways that push privacy beyond our belief. And we all stick together, but when I live in the States and I go to NFT NYC or LA or all these crypto meetups, it's 98% males talking about economics and ego, and it doesn't always feel good. So what we're trying to do is make it a more beautiful ecosystem where we're focused more on the art and the storytelling and the history than this toxic masculinity, unfortunately. 2 is the lack of education and onboarding newcomers. We're here to really provide a platform that educates and empowers everyone. It doesn't matter if you're male or female, there is no gender, and there is no way of having to get started in the space. If you are not a Web3 crypto native, we will take you in and be your evangelist and really onboard you with open arms. 3 is the lack of exposure and visibility, and this is my goal as a curator, to make sure that we have a majority of crypto investors and NFT collectors really recognize that there is so many talented women and non-binary artists in the space, and all they need is a platform, an exhibition, or an alignment to showcase their artwork. So obviously we love Web3, and Web2 has left us behind. So the NFT market remains a massive untapped potential. We have so much potential, and curating NFT Art Berlin was the segue into this portal of making sure that we can establish new resources, we can have a new ecosystem, we can live in a new art movement that is completely self-sufficient and reliable, based on all helping each other as this microcosm for us to thrive in the space. And that space is funded by Web3 and crypto, and it's also supported by Art for Art's sake. So it's very simple. If we can, I'd love for you to buy art by women, LGBTQ+, and non-binary folks. And us personally, we have 99 seats at the DAO. We've raised $7 million, and our focus and my focus is to make sure that money is paid back to the creator, so that that creator can feel good to be able to support their next exhibition, their next installation, their next collection, so they don't have to worry about what they're doing tomorrow or a month from now. If we do the buy breakdown, this is just a simple flow chart of what we're up to. So 20% of this is sweeping the floor. And when we say sweep the floor, what we mean is we want to completely support the artists. We want to flood them with support and love and the economy of buying all of their artwork. This comes from PFPs, avatars. This comes from avant-garde, one-of-ones, sculpture, painting, photography, digital art, animation. No matter what you do, we'd like to support you in some way. And so we know it as acquiring blue chips, but in the future, we will make this a pink chip. And the pink chip is supporting women and non-binary artists in the space. And so it's just us changing the way that things are worded slightly to make it more equal. So this is kind of our community hub concept. We have an online platform that will turn into a radical, decentralized propaganda magazine. And what we'll do is we'll be featuring artists of our time, like Anya and Deja of Operator, People Pleaser, Olive Allen, IX Shells, all the artists in our space to make sure that they are amplified in many different media outlets and sources, but also one that is created from the root of all women and non-binary folks in our creator economy. Something like how we've raised these funds in order to be able to afford things is we have amazing accredited investors actually buy a seat at our DAO. And this is a 50 ETH minimum buy-in, but what you're doing is you're purchasing 50 ETH in order for us to create this new art movement that is completely self-sufficient and viable in order to acquire these collections to build an IRL, in real life, metaverse museum of the future. And so we think about how the next 50 to 100 years look like. We are actually building a museum that's physical and digital to be able to look at all the art that we collect. And this has started very simply at acquiring and asking the DAO, 70 of our members, are you interested in buying this Matthew Stone piece, one of one? We have a piece by Operator that has just launched at Craftwork. We show them what we've done, who has curated it, the timeline of their career, that NFTs are an answer to their prayer, that they've been artists for decades and that they're looking for a solution to not be represented by a gallery, to not have an agent, to be completely self-sufficient so that they don't have to worry about the hierarchical structure of control, of ego, of fear, of greed, and that Web3 actually liberates an artist to the maximum capacity possible. So, I haven't told anyone this. This is the first, and you're hearing the news. In July of 2022, we are collaborating with Christie's Auction House, and I will be curating the first inclusive auction of 20 female LGBTQ+ and non-binary artists of our time. This has never been done. I think it's going to be extremely powerful. And in honor of Pride in New York City and giving people a voice, we are selecting 20 historic artists to document that this is an art movement that is here to stay. And I feel extremely honored and privileged to work with Christie's and UnicornDAO in finding those 20 artists of our time. So, that is what concludes this roadmap. The next event that we have is NFT NYC on July 21st. We will be in Manhattan celebrating a queer revolution, a performance, an after party, a digital exhibition that I'll be curating with women and non-binary folks in the space. And then we'll be announcing to the public this auction in partnership with Christie's. So ways that you can follow us on Instagram, we are unicorn.dao. Our Discord is UnicornDAO. Our Twitter is unicornDAO_XXX. And I'd love to open it up to the audience for questions, or if you have anything that you'd like to ask me personally, or ways that you can be involved. This is my passion, and what makes me really happy is to see so many women in the audience and people that really need to speak to other women or to other non-binary folks in the space so that you can feel like you have a home, and that's what we're here for. So thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this, and just thank you. UnicornDAO welcomes you.